Hey, welcome to the Hitout. I'm your host, Phoenix Trinidad. If you're new here, this is Zero Hanger's weekly AFL podcast where we talk about everything that happened on the weekend, everything in the middle, everything to come. It has been a great week. Obviously, I'm still reeling from NAM's win over the weekend. We talk about that. We talk about all the action from the weekend. We go through all the Indigenous Jumpers and pick our favourites. We do a little ranking. We also pick our favourite commentary team. We have $15 to spend. Who do you want to put in there? And we also hand out our weekly awards. It's a really fun episode. Lots to go over. A lot of stuff to go over. Let's get to it. All right, we are here with Aidan Cellini. Welcome, mate.
Hello. How are we?
Not too bad. I'm feeling pretty good. I don't know if you can tell.
I can tell that beanie of yours is
It's a good
beaming.
Day. It's a good day. And Callum at Farquhar. How are you, buddy?
Good. How you going, thanks?
Yeah, not too bad. All right, let's get into the footy. First thing on the rundown, Sunday slip-ups. Aidan?
We're almost 3 from 3. North just held on there, but obviously the Saints were tipped as heavy favourites against the Eagles, although it was in WA. And the Lions, which, as you would be fully aware, couldn't get it done over the Demons. So, yeah, Sunday slip-ups, but only 2 of the 3 matches.
Yeah. I mean, let's talk Lions. But let's get this out of the way.
Yeah.
Unbelievable win by the D's. I think a lot of people everybody underestimated us. No one really talked about Viney being out as well as Lever being out, but that's big for us. I think Gorney mentioned it on Triple M this morning, but having those 2 out is massive, and that pushes Clayton Oliver to the tagger role. That's why he's playing a bit more of a tagger role, taking off that Viney role. And then, I haven't screamed that loud on the couch this year so far. What do you make of it?
A couple of takeaways. Max Gawn was massive in that final term, especially that you guys sort of just ran away with it almost, and then Brisbane really didn't have anywhere to go, and every time they went down the line, Max Gawn was waiting there. Oscar McInerney was a laid out for that game, so Darcy Fort sort of had to try his best, but obviously Max Gawn's one of the best in the competition in that sense. So started to find some form here, Melbourne.
It was winning the ruck battle the whole game, but then I think he didn't really take too many marks until that last quarter.
Yeah.
When maybe the Lions got a bit tired. But yeah, your takeaways?
I think we forget on paper how good Melbourne's team and list can actually be. They've obviously been struggling with their game style, their lack of dare and attack, but a few times this year we've seen that kind of come to fruition, what they've been training over this pre-season, that is. So, not that I'm surprised that they won, but I'm also shocked that they've been kind of quite low in terms of their ladder position and their performances this year.
Yeah.
Because they've got stars on every line.
Yeah.
And Oliver's coming back to it. Petrarca's obviously playing some good footy again. Pickett is arguably one of the most exciting players in the competition, if not is, and he's still got Max Gawn. So, definitely kudos to them.
Yeah.
Big trip up to the Gabba, not easy in front of the Lions fans. So, big win.
I think it's just a fun matchup too, because we've played a lot of finals and whatnot against the Lions in recent times, and obviously they've gone on to win the premiership, and then last year Jake Melksham, or the year before that I think it was the Jake Melksham one. Yeah. So it's a good matchup, and there's a lot of feeling in that game. So, and I forget until we play them how much I dislike Brisbane fans. I think it was because of one of those years that we went out in straight sets. Like, they were just so loud at the MCG when they beat us at the MCG. So, get that one up, Saints. Saints.
Well, I mean,
bad.
Yeah, awful.
So bad.
So bad. I think maybe on the other side of the coin, the Eagles, clearly emotionally charged after passing one of their club legends and premiership players, Adam Selwood. So obviously our thoughts go out to the Selwood family and the West Coast community and even the football fraternity that is reeling from this loss, but so impressive.
Yeah.
You see Andrew McCoulter post-game saying they just wanted the players to play in the spirit that Adam Selwood did, and we know the Selwood brothers and all of them, they played with such endeavour and toughness about their game. And we saw that from the Eagles probably for one of the very few times this year. And obviously they avoided a 0-10 start, which would have been their first in the history. But first win for the year is just so good for the Eagles because they get some sort of belief and some sort of recognition for maybe some of the work that they haven't previously gotten so far this year.
Yeah, and they've been close a couple of times, but that was just like an all-round really good performance from the Eagles.
Yeah, you could sort of sense it was coming a little bit, but again, they had that close game against Essendon a couple of rounds ago, and then they sort of fell off the next week. So after that Richmond loss, it was sort of like, are they going to bounce back from this? They got obviously that extra motivation from Adam Selwood passing, which of course would help out with the motivation to play for him. But yeah, like again, it's like strong win, strong to have a response, and especially in an emotionally charged sort of thing, it can either go one or two ways. It can either really like affect you and how you play, or it can benefit you, and you can drive and motivate the group together. And that's what happened on Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing we probably should talk about the Saints as well. Like that was like, as much as we want to give Europe their flowers and the Eagles their flowers, the Saints just, I don't know. How do you feel about that?
Just disappointing.
Yeah.
Ross Lyon is known for his defensive aura in terms of his coaching abilities, and for I think there's a fourth or fifth time this year, and more so recently as well, the Saints have conceded over 100 points. So on a lot of lines, they're just not doing that well. And I actually looked through some of the stats. They're one of the worst transition teams from defensive 50 to attack, and actually converted that into inside 50. Now, last year, that was one of their one-woods. Then they're top 4, top 6 with Wangan Miller and Jack Sinclair really bursting off halfback with their elite kicking skills. And Dare this year, I know they've chucked a few different names around there, and it's a bit of personnel change, but they're struggling to get the ball out of the back half. And Ross Lyon flagged that in his post-match press conference, saying we just can't do it. And consistently on a week-to-week basis, they have failed to do so. And the Eagles capitalised on that by forcing turnovers in dangerous areas of the ground and punishing them going the other way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really surprising. Maybe it's just that teams know, like, what you're getting with St Kilda at that point, but... pretty disappointing. But the next one, so North just holding on against the Tigers. Yeah,
Richmond really fought right at the end. They had a lot of opportunities. It was more of a North Melbourne held on rather than Richmond gave it up at the end. There was a late shot from Tim Taranto, I think, with a few minutes to go, and if that had gone in, Richmond had all the momentum. So, but again, it was a good response from North Melbourne. They hadn't won at the MCG since 2017, so they sort of needed to come in and sort of break that hoodoo to get them back on the right track, and they did that on Sunday. So good performance from them in the end. Again, competitive from Richmond, which we've come to expect now, but yeah, North Melbourne getting it done in the end.
I know it wasn't much made for that game between the Tigers and North, but the fact that they actually won in the end, I know Richmond might have blown some chances, but last week against the Lions, Roos probably should have won in the end, couldn't. Previous years, they've failed when it matters most in those close games. And again, I know it is against Richmond and the North were favourite, but the fact that they are now trying to learn how to win, I think it's really important for the Roos going forward.
Yeah. I think that was coming into it. I mean, a lot of us, I tipped Tigers, I think, last week. And so it was, because we were talking about it last week in terms of comparing rebuilds. We were talking about Richmond and West Coast, but when you look at North Melbourne and Richmond, like their comparison is quite interesting as well, because they both pretty much have bottomed out, whereas West Coast didn't quite bottom out. They held on for a little bit longer. But what did you make of that comparison of their sort of like young talent?
Well, yeah, North should be, and I think are on paper probably a bit ahead of Richmond. I mean, naturally, because Richmond had 6 or 7 or 8, I think, players coming from last year's draft that are essentially going to be their core, whereas North probably did that the last 3 or 4 years, dating back to Wardlaw, Sheasel, who are still quite young, but they've obviously been in the system for a lot longer. And then you've got Jysink and Luke Davies-Uniacke as well that are kind of in that prime of age. So, yeah, I would say that they're probably ahead in terms of where they should be in comparison to Richmond, but on field, they're just not performing like they should be, which is why everyone thought North would make some sort of jump and leap in 2025, but we haven't really seen that thus far.
I think you got it right, though, when you said that, going into that game, you're talking about the team that knows how to win. Richmond looked like the team that would know how to win because they've still got like those senior players in there that I think it was Camden McIntosh's 200th and stuff as well, and then you still got like Lynch and everything. That team, their older players know how to win, whereas North Melbourne, their older players still don't really know how to win. Like the Luke McDonald's and everything, like they've had a pretty dire run at it, but maybe this is like a bit more of a maturing for North Melbourne because now they are learning how to actually win games and run them out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. So, that was a Sunday slip-up. So, 3 interesting games. I mean, Saturday was a bit of wasn't the most fun day of footy, but a little bit of form watch, Aidan.
Yeah, well, the Giants have kind of slipped up the last few weeks, losing 4 of their last 5. And I did have a question off the top. With all their I guess, mini exodus or mass exodus, last year with Perriman going to Collingwood, Cumming and Peatling Adelaide, and obviously Nick Haynes, who probably wasn't playing that much footy anyway, but he's gone to Carlton. They've lost a lot of depth, and they went to the draft, they picked up some youngsters, but it might have looked like they might have cut in too deep, just in terms of when there is a few injuries. You've got Brett Daniels out, Cornelia out, Kelly out, and some players down on form. There's not really anyone to turn to. So I guess that could be a reason why they're kind of performing quite low at the moment. Obviously, Fremantle capitalised on that at MG Stadium, which, as we mentioned last week, the Giants have really played there this year, I think twice in the first 9 or 10 weeks. So, yeah, it's an interesting one and one to watch, I think, as the year goes on. I think they're okay, the Giants, but, you know, the last month has been pretty poor.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it was definitely one to watch for me at the start of the year. I thought perhaps we'll go the other way around and they might struggle initially without, you know, missing some key trips and having some new people come in. They've sort of been able to fix that hole until now. They've sort of had that really heavy travel schedule. Adam Kingsley pointed it out post-game. He's mentioned, we've had quite the long run and that's why we were quite zapped for energy. He said they looked a bit flat. But then, you know, when you don't have enough depth to be able to, you know, manage, you see Collingwood and even Hawthorn against Gold Coast, they rested some of their veterans to, you know, for later in the season, they can have that energy. But when you cut so much, you know, quality depth, like realistically, all these guys aren't, you know, your top 5 or top 3 player on your team, but they are so important from a role perspective. So when they all, you know, when they're all gone and you're relying on maybe a bit of younger or inexperienced depth, that's when it can come to hurt them. And I think that's what we saw against Freo.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. So it's more, you're not, like when you cut those players, you're sort of, you're sacrificing your depth, but you're not really touching your structure for that best, you know, that first 22 players or whatever. But yeah, when it comes to this part of the season, and we're finally, I mean, not like it's a good thing, but we're coming into some colder weather now. It's going to become a bit of a slog. Yeah, so that's going to be a bit of a test. Although Greater Western Sydney's not as bad when it comes to, and they do now sort of get to stay at home a little bit more compared to the first half of their fixture. So that will be one to watch. But yeah, I don't think was a big loss for them, but the other 4, Perriman, Cumming, Peatling, the other 3, sorry, I think that's a bit more important. So Essendon.
Yeah.
That is exactly how I feel whenever anyone mentions
I'm speechless, but I think on a podcast you probably should talk. So we'll try our best to discuss the Bombers, but that was atrocious. They always have these kind of games every couple months where it's almost like they didn't rock up. They start playing for themselves. I saw an interesting stat that the captain, Zach Merritt, which is not a knock on him, but it was his 3rd game in his career that he didn't have a tackle. Now, if your captain's not doing it, and his last 3 or 4 years have been so super in terms of leading that kind of defensive effort and output, that he didn't do it, you know, that means no one else is doing it, because usually you look at your captain and go, if he's leading the charge, I'm going to jump on his shoulders and come with him. And again, the Bulldogs were just, you know, sensational, and they deserved the 90.1 point victory. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Essendon's a real shake of the head. You just don't know what to make of them.
Yeah, they are. They seem to do this every year. They have right now. They've got a positive win-loss record. They're 5-4. So you think, oh yeah, that's like, you know, if you're an Essendon fan and you're hearing all this commentary, we might finish bottom 4, and you're 10 rounds into the year and you're 5-4. You think that's going all right, and then you have a look at their percentage. It's like 80 or 81 or something at the moment, which is I think from when I checked, it was the 5th worst. So like that is almost bottom 4 level, and percentage doesn't lie. It shows where you're really at. So they've been able to claim a couple scalps, but then when they've come across the best team, like they have with the Bulldogs, they've just gotten done. They've been exposed defensively. It's been an issue at the start of the year. They're sort of able to patch it up, and now it's just been re-exposed again. So
I feel like Essendon. For Essendon fans, it must feel like there's some sort of experiment being put on them because, like, you know how I think it was the 1950s or whatever. That's when they developed LSD. Like the government developed LSD and tested it on soldiers or whatever. This feels that level. It's like a secret government test on this group of supporters. Like, what can we do to this group of people to just like see what they're capable of, like, it's to like maintain, can they still support this team,
push them to the brink.
just like, let's just throw everything, let's throw a drug scandal at them, let's never let them win a final in 20 years, but let's also give them like the 2 greatest seasons, one of the greatest seasons we've ever seen, to in 2000. Like, it's just, I have no idea what, like, I'm so glad I'm not a Bomber supporter at this point.
I agree.
Yeah,
I'd hate to be donning the sash.
Yeah. Anyway, so Gold Coast 8 from 8 in TO Stadium.
In the last 4 years. So they knocked off Hawks obviously on Thursday, which I'm sure Cal's probably not too pleased about. But that was a really great game and just continued their excellence up in the top end. But also another little record that's been maintained is the Pies' dominance over the Crows. Now, another close game. I think the last 5 or 6 games have been within 2 goals, especially on Saturday's 10-point win by the Pies. But I think they've won every game since 2016. So I just wanted to chuck that one in there. But I mean, again, those 2 teams are flying at the moment. And again, the Crows as well. On their perspective, they're also doing pretty well as well. So nothing to worry about there.
I would just like to remind everyone of my pre-season prediction of Gold Coast making top 4, finishing top 4, potentially losing a grand final from 4th.
Yeah, that was
that's looking better by the day.
It is. It is.
They look unreal.
They do.
They're one of those teams that have learnt how to win. And any thoughts on that game?
To be honest, I was going into it expecting a 50-point loss.
Wow.
Yeah, I thought because we rested a couple players, or maybe more than a couple. We rested a few veterans, so Luke Bruce, Jack Gunson, and then Lloyd Meek. And I looked at the ruck matchup, so there's Ned Reeves against Jared Witts and Ned Boyle. So I thought they were just going to have a field day. Yeah. It didn't really end up being that in case. Ned Reeves sort of held his own a little bit, but the first quarter I thought things were looking out of hand, but Hawthorn, a bit of maturity as we've seen this year. They've sort of grown in that sort of sense. But Gold Coast were always expected. Their midfield is unreal with Matt Rao, Noah Anderson.
They're the best midfield in the comp at the moment. But question without notice, what do you? Because I don't think we've had you on the pod for a couple of weeks, but I haven't been on the pod with you in a couple of weeks. But what do you make of Sicily?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. No, he's definitely out of form. God, he can't hit a target at the moment, and it's that he has that really unique kicking action at the sometimes it's not all the time, but sometimes he really hooks it.
It's like almost it's got the yips or something at the moment.
But last year he'd pull that off. He'd swing his leg and it would go 55 meters and hit a player straight on the chest. But this year he's turning it over. I've heard some commentary that maybe he's hiding an injury, maybe there might be a groin issue or something like that. But there hasn't actually been really any real substance to that. It's sort of maybe some people are just theorizing, I think.
So then what would you like to be what would you want Sam Mitchell to do with him at this point? Because he's not, I'm not saying he's a liability, but he's clearly out of form.
He's out of form, but you've just got to trust the process with those type of players. Eventually it'll come to and he'll break through. And I think potentially maybe moving him around swinging between forward and back is playing with, his setup. If you just give him something to be structured in and he knows what he's doing and he knows his role each week, he can sort of eliminate all the extras and just keep it simple, and that could help in his favor. So maybe I reckon keep him down back or something like that.
Oh, okay. That was going to be my question. If you didn't want him to be swinging between the forward line and the back line, where would you want to keep him for now?
Yeah, I'd
put him in the back.
I'd keep him in the back line. I think he's like a general down there for us. And as a skipper, I love it. I loved it when Luke Hodge was our skipper and he was able to view the whole ground from the back line and order and direct from that sort of perspective. And I think James Sicilly's quite good at that. And he did that well last year. And then, of course, he swung up a couple times. But I think if he stays down back a bit more predominantly.
What would you do? Where would you put him?
Sicily?
Yeah.
I think down back, I agree. But give him a role. So normally they're going to send some sort of run him with Tago or kind of cheeky little forward to just get under his skin because everyone knows it can be done. But if I'm him, almost take yourself out of the play. So still be down back, as you said, Cal, kind of be that general, organise your teammates. But I'm not saying don't demand the footy or get out of the way, but also understand that, okay, you're out of form. Play maybe a selfless role. Go, I'm just going to take this forward from the opposition. I'm just going to do that really well. I want to help my teammates get into the game, as opposed to trying to always win the ball back and put himself in positions where he's kind of been left vulnerable. He got 2 screamers taken on him. Again, that's not just his fault. But he's putting himself in positions where normally, when he's in form, he'd be able to win those contests and one-on-ones and then be able to turn it defense into attack. As it stands, he's probably a bit out of form, which is okay. It happens. But, maybe just allow other players who are, Josh Battle's having a really good start to the Hawks career. John Minipi, Carl are doing really well as well. Yep. So try to get those guys even more so into the game and maybe Sicily take a bit more of a backward step, but still, I guess, help them in terms of getting them right as well.
Yeah. Well, hopefully Sam Mitchell listens to this podcast and he hears what you have to say. All right, so another one from the weekend. So this is a club that I didn't know existed until this weekend, Aidan.
Yeah, well, I think since 2012, there's now 11 players that have reached 1,000 meters or 1K. Meters gained, that is, sorry. With John Noble reaching that feat on Thursday, which was a big part of obviously the Suns winning. But then Bailey Dale topped him with a few extra meters, but also 49 touches for the Bulldogs against the Bombers, which, as we alluded to, were pretty hopeless on Saturday at Marvel Stadium. So, yeah, I think dating back from 2012 is 11 players now that have reached 1,000 meters. Aaron Hall, former North Melbourne player and Gold Coast player, but when he was at the Kangaroos, he has the record for 11,000 meters and 165.
Right.
So 1165.
Yeah.
I think
I
it
forgot
is.
about Aaron Hall.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
he'd like to run and dash. Now, again, this club is skewed in defenders' favours, and in particular halfbacks and those who do kickouts. So again, if you look at a lot of these guys, Bailey Dale's entrusted with 90% of the kickouts on the Bulldogs. John Noble is as well. You got Aaron Hall, Daniel Richards on the list as well. I think only ones who weren't defenders that are on this list is Patrick Dangerfield. When he went bananas in 2016, won the Brownlow and won every individual award and superstar. And then Chad Wingard, funnily enough. I think when he was still at Port Adelaide, he also reached the 1,000-metre mark. So, but everyone else is generally, running defenders.
Question without notice again, but what actually counts as a meter gained? Is it running with the ball and kicking forward as well?
So and it also works against you as well. So that's why you see sometimes ruckman might have 50 meters gain, argument's sake, hypothetically, because normally they might handball it backwards. So that means you're in the negative 5 meters.
Right.
So it does go both ways. So naturally with the defender, you've got 85, 90% of the actual size of the ground to work with and forward. Because obviously you can't go backwards. Whereas a key forward, if you're marking 30 metres out from goal, you kick it to the goal, you only get 30 metres to your name.
Yeah, stats are funny. What do you reckon about that?
Oh yeah, I think it's a good metric generally. From a personal perspective, sometimes it's not really telling of how influential a player is because it could just be kickouts or they're bombing it down the line or something like that. It doesn't actually show the effectiveness of their ball use.
Yeah, but a lot of teams also sling it around the back half, go backwards to go forwards. But
I find though that from a team perspective, meters gained can be quite important because it can show like how effective they are transitioning from halfback to forward line. If they got strong meters gained, they're not the type of club to pick out short kick marks around the ground.
It's also an indicator of what opposition clubs can look at. So I know Wangan Miller is a very much meters game player. I think he might be top 3 or 4 in the comp. But against the Eagles, they must have put some time into him because I think he only had just under 400, which is well below his average. So if you can recognise that some of these players like Bailey Dale, John Noble like to run and carry and kick the ball and they like to get the ball in their hands, if you can try hinder their game and their influence on the contest, then I think that's, again, a reason why maybe you look at the stat. But yeah, it doesn't really mean much though.
Yeah.
But I thought it was cool.
Who would you rather in your team, John Noble or Bailey Dale?
Bailey Dale.
Bailey Dale.
Yeah. I think John Noble's been good this year though.
I mean, you had John Noble in your team and you got rid of him.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, they're both in cracking form at the moment though too. So you take either, but you take Bailey Dale.
Yeah, 49 touches.
Yeah, I mean it's not bad. Although that means so how many touches did John Noble have? Because then he would have had that
30,
many meters game
36
with 30. I mean it's the same. It's pretty.
So then,
technically, so
he's
meters
more
per
efficient.
disposal is probably better in that perspective.
It is more, but again, if you do the deep dive, then it's like how many handballs do they actually do?
Yeah, right.
So there is a bit of a deep dive there, but just to know that you've made 1,000 meters gain is, I think, a pretty cool thing.
Yeah. Love it. All right. So we are in the first week of Sir Doug Nicholls' round. And the best thing about this round are the Indigenous Jumpers. We talked about it, I think, right at the end of last week's episode. So we're not ranking them like 18 to 1, but I think we should just do a little thing of what our favourite ones are because there's some crackers. So you do a top 5? I did a top 3.
I did do a top 5, but as I have noticed, we've all agreed that Adelaide is up there with some of the best Guernseys, which I think is fair to say. I think they've got a different one coming this week.
Which one do you guys prefer? Do you prefer the navy or the red one? Because
I prefer the red one.
Yeah, I think the crow stands out more on it. I usually don't like the red Adelaide ones, but I think that one.
The one against Callum which obviously is a better one. That was super.
Yeah,
that was very well designed. It was just.
I think Adelaide's always looks good like every year because of the colours that they have. Like it just like Indigenous Jumpers, the tricolours works best, I think, thing.
And mascot as well. You can do plenty with the crow
Yeah.
as well, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I also had the Cats. They had, I think, the white version against Port Adelaide, which
Yeah, I didn't like that.
I'm more looking at their blue one, which they'll wear this weekend, I believe, or this Thursday. Sorry, in the Bailey Smith grudge match.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
At GMHBA Stadium. So that was the one I took a liking to. Obviously, the white, the contrast one. Also had the Giants, which are awesome every year.
Mm-hmm.
I did put the pies in there sneakily. But also,
Oh, you like the Giants one?
Yeah.
I do not. I think for some reason, I just really don't like the G. Like, so, okay, I used to be a graphic designer, so I've got the most authority when it speaks like on this topic. But the G just doesn't, for me, it doesn't work as a shape in the Indigenous like style for me.
Sure. Okay.
But, yeah. Anyway, go on.
I thought this was my top five. Anyway, no, that is fair enough. And North Melbourne.
Yeah, North is good.
Again, good colours, good mascot, but also I think the design itself was super this year. So
yeah,
that was kind of my favourites.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked Adelaide's, of course, as well. I thought Collingwood was quite good. I think it's quite subtle, but it's effective. I like it's like almost like the magpie footprints over the white, which I think is quite cool. Also had Hawthorn's brown version, so the one they wore against Gold Coast. I think again, it's sort of like it works well. It's like not too like I find with the gold one, it's almost like there's too much going on. The brown one sort of like takes it back a bit, and then the hawk. Like there's a hawk emblem on the front, and I thought that makes it stand out quite a bit more. I really like the Giants one. I know you're against the G in general, but I think the white base and then the design, the artwork on the white base looks quite cool. It sort of just gives it almost like a fresh canvas to look at the artwork. It's pretty similar in a sense to Brisbane's because it's just like a lot of like just a straight design. There's not much like with the Hawthorn one and Collingwood one's got the stripes in that. It's sort of just a straight design, but the Brisbane one almost looks like it's been just slapped on a Brisbane jumper over the top of it. But this one actually looks, I guess, just like on a canvas. So it's a bit clearer to just sort of depict what's going on. Yeah, from my perspective. But my favorite one's the Fremantle one, and I think I just love that they incorporated the green and the red. Yeah, I always love the retro throwback, like give some heritage to the past and all that. And the design itself is pretty sleek as well. So
just on the Brisbane one, I did like it when I saw it on the press release when it came out. But then a couple of people pointed this out online. When you watch the game, the back of the jumper made it look like everyone had a bit of a plumber's crack because it just had like a little thing and then like a line, and it just looked like every Brisbane player had a bit of a plumber's crack going on. So it loses points for that. Yep. But I agree. The Hawthorn brown version was really good. I love that all three of us have put our teams in here because
I had that loaded a minute ago. Yeah.
But yeah, my top one was the Adelaide Kawana one. I reckon that's the best one. Followed up by the Freo Wallalup one, and then the Melbourne, the Nam one, I reckon is great. Just because the story of it being Cosy Pickett's dad that designed it. It was also a stand-up comedian. It was just a great sort of week, like with all the press that came out with it. So it's good. It was a good time. But I only did a top three. But I think if I was going to add another couple, I'd probably put Hawthorn and probably Collingwood's in there actually. Yeah. Because but again, I don't know what you guys see with the GWS one. It's just it's too straight. It feels corporate to me with having the G in there. Okay. I like the organic feel of the Indigenous stuff.
I get it.
Just on Guernseys in general, this is something that's been a bit of a pet peeve for a while. This is a bit without notice, but the Gold Coast have yet to wear their Clash Guernsey yet, and I'm starting to think they've gone down the Geelong track where they won't wear it. So I don't know if you guys are familiar
What's the Clash one?
It's the yellow and the navy blue. Like that really horrible colour scheme. It doesn't work.
I like it.
I
like
that.
I don't know why they went navy. They're not navy. It shouldn't be navy, but anyway.
Wait, I want to hang on. I'm going to quickly Google it. Gold Coast.
I liked it. I don't know how it looked playing. I don't know if like 22 guys running around in it, how that would.
Yeah, that's not it.
This one?
That's the old.
No, that's the old one. Okay. I should do this off camera, but
there it is.
There it is.
Yeah.
So I like that.
Either way, I'm not fussed about whether they wear it or not. Well, I am fussed. That's my point. Is that they're yet to wear. They keep wearing the red on red every week, and
they've worn pink.
They've worn pink, but like that's the one off. Like I think I was just looking at it because like I was bored and I got no life. But But every team has worn their clash, like their official away / clash Guernsey this year, except Geelong and Gold Coast. Melbourne, technically, they wore the royal blue again, even though it was the Indigenous one. They wore the royal blue, or the lighter blue against.
It might just depend on who they've played. Like,
well, that's what it is. That's what I think. But they used to wear the blue clash Guernsey, like the old blue clash Guernsey, quite regularly. But now I don't think they'll wear it until round 17 when they play Essendon, because that's the only other red clash that could happen. Otherwise, it's just like the whole red. It doesn't really clash with much, so they're going to wear it every week. Yeah. So it's just a pet peeve because I love seeing all the different Guernseys.
Yeah, right.
I reckon they might swing the pink as the official class Guernsey maybe next year.
That'd be nice. Yeah, I do love the pink.
Well, it's pretty much the red though. Like, you get to change it. Yeah, but like you can. No, but it's not like a clash Guernsey because it looks pretty much similar to the red one.
Yeah, but I'm saying they'll probably say that's their clash Guernsey. Oh, I've got a feeling because they've got too much love, and I reckon, as Cal said, the yellow one probably doesn't.
Yeah, the yellow one hasn't seen the light of day yet.
Yeah. So. Well, I wanted to buy the pink one, but I just can't wear another. Well, I feel weird about buying another team's merch as well. But
it's like an expansion club. It's like the Tassie Devils.
Yeah,
That's okay. For now.
Technically, I'm a Tassie Devils member too, so I should get over that. But yeah, anyway. Good Guernsey chat. Awards. So this is our new weekly segment where we just hand out an award from the round. What do you got, Aidan?
Something that caught my eye was something from Luke Beveridge's press conference last week. And if everyone can think about that, say that again moment that Luke Darcy had on Talking Footy a few years ago. Also, I've said this is the Saying Has Gone Wrong award. So Bevo, in relation to Bailey Dale, amid the Willie Rowley saga and some of those comments, we won't need to delve into that. But he referred to Bailey Dale as someone who wouldn't agitate a milkshake.
I missed that. How did I miss this?
So I think this was last Thursday or Friday. I think it was Friday actually. That he said this. Now I think Beveridge at the time had a wry smile. I don't think he knew what he was saying. I think it raised a few eyebrows of the journos that were there as well. I've been racking my brain as to what he meant all weekend. I haven't been able to sleep. Awful sleep, but wouldn't agitate a milkshake. So I think that sits among some of the other, I guess, expressions that people do get wrong, such as like, I could care less, when it's I couldn't care less. Yeah. I love the 360-degree turn. Now, people sometimes say that, it's a full circle turn. It's like, well, if it's full circle, you're back to where you are. So it's more 180. And then for all intensive purposes, it's all intents and purposes. So, Bevo, unless you can clarify that for us here, I'm going to put you among these calls that are seemingly wrong. That's my award for the week.
Like when agitating a milkshake, the idea of agitating a milkshake, when you make a milkshake, you're meant to shake it. Like you're meant to agitate the milkshake to make a milkshake properly.
What I don't understand is he's given feelings to a milkshake. He's saying he won't annoy the milkshake. Like, it's milk. Like, how does he even come up with that?
Like, I do get the line of thinking he was on. I just think he must have more to it. He had so much opportunity there.
Yeah.
And I think
usually he's a great speaker. He's got away with words.
He's really good.
I think you'd have to. That's the thing. When you got away with words, maybe he's just testing himself. He's like, what can I get away with here?
Actually, maybe that was it.
Yeah,
that's probably it. I put him on notice.
Yeah. All right. Who's your award going to?
I've created a name for the award. It's the One Upper Award. And if everyone knows that mate or that sibling that always just tries to outdo you, you come home from school, I got 95% on my test, either goes out next week and tries to get 100% or something like that. Yeah. Bailey, we were just talking about the 1,000 meters gain. So after John Noble becomes the 10th since it was recorded, to reach 1,000 meters gain, Bailey Dale goes out and does it a couple of days later, and all of a sudden John Noble's been overshadowed. So no one will even remember that anymore because Bailey Dale got more meters gained as well. So John Noble's just like the little brother again, and he did. People are like, oh, what do you think about the 1,000 meter gains? Oh, Bailey Dale. Oh yeah, and John Noble as well. So that's that one. But an honourable mention for that award was the Geelong and Port Adelaide. It's a bit of tug in cheek, but they both tried to outdo each other for injuries in that first half. Like, they're all falling off the field. Jeremy Cameron came off to try to level it up because I think Port Adelaide had 3, Geelong had 2, but Jeremy Cameron was a bit sore for a bit, so they're just trying to balance each other out or something like that. I think that both coaches joked after the game in the post-match presses. They're just like, they couldn't believe it. Chris Scott was like, "Oh, you got Jason Horne-Francis out, we'll raise you." Like, so yeah, another one there.
I love that one.
That was a
One
good
upper
one.
award. Yeah, I reckon that might be the one that comes back a lot because I feel like there's a couple of those that happen each round. My award is going to Jake Melksham, of course. I'm giving him the Squirtle Award for squirting Harris Andrews with the water bottle in their one-on-one battle all weekend. That was unbelievable to watch there. And he did such a good job on Harris Andrews as well. But for me, Harris Andrews just has like I'm going to say per capita, but for a player, he just has so many weirdly goofy moments on the field. Yeah. Like there was that when he was standing on the mark and he's done a couple of shooting stars and they're just trying to swat the water bottle away from Jake Melksham. It was unbelievable. That was one of my favorite things that I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's quite good.
But good banter.
Yeah, but the squirting with the water bottle. I don't know if you remember, but Dusty gave away 50 meters for doing that.
Yeah, I was going to point that out. I swear he might have gotten a fine for it too. So maybe there's MRO watch here as well.
I think it was because with Dusty, it's a lot more pointed. Like he's more angry about it. Yeah. Whereas Jake Melksham just like and then squirts him. But congratulations, Jake Melksham. You get the Squirtle Award for this week. Moving now to something that we put up on our socials. I think it was last week. This is a good one. Picking our favorite commentary combination. So we have a grid here that we put up. I'll put it up on screen. So we have a commentary team. You get $15. You got to spend. So we got a top line of $5, $4, $3, $2, $1. We've got commentators, special comments, and boundary riders. So we've all assembled our team worth $15. Let's start with you, Aidan. Who have you picked here and why?
Our 5-star studded commentary lineup. So I've gone Jason Bennett. I think he's quite underrated. VFL commentator. $2. Also comes in at a bargain. VFL commentator does do some Sunday games at times for the AFL, but I think he could take the next step into kind of being a bit more of a consistent caller at the top flight. Then I've got Hitout. I think he's been doing it the best, aside from maybe Bruce and Dennis, for the last 2 decades just about. I like Gary Lyons' analysis. I think he's become one of the top media performers this year. Obviously, he's been around for quite a while. Mm-hmm. But, even footy show days, I reckon he was absolute gas. And obviously now as a commentator, he's great. I also think Nick Rewalt, pretty smart, switched on, like him on, during the week as well on the agenda setters, but also on Fox Footy as special comments. And also Abby Holmes. Boundary rider, perfect, but also the interviews that she gets and the questions that she asks of the players, a lot of them obviously feel comfortable with her, especially around touchy subjects. And I think she's killing it. So I think that's my 5 commentary team.
Okay, so you got a lot of the... Oh, no, you just got Holmes from the Channel 7 lineup, pretty much.
I guess Bennett's as well.
Bennett's, okay.
If you were to include, but yeah.
I went, kind of like I'm very staunchly anti-Channel 7. I just don't like the coverage. I do like Abby Holmes, though, but I went Hitout with my $5. I think we've all got Hitout because he's just cream of the crop. And then I love Dwayne Russell. I think a lot of people either hate him or love him. But I don't think I've ever heard him with Hitout, and I think that combo of Dwayne Russell and Hitout would be great. Hitout for the big moments, and then Dwayne for the lulls in the game, because he can make like a really bad game fun.
Sounds good, yeah.
In terms of special comments, so I also have a thing with special comments on like ex-players and everything, and especially because they're all like full forwards or captains or whatever. If I had to pick one, I'm picking Dunstall. And I'm spending $5 on him. I love Dunstall. He's come in the office here before. He's a great guy. I'm definitely picking him over, your Kane Corns or your Rewalts or your Hodges or your David Kings. And then I've got $2 to spare. So another on special comments. I really like what Kate McCarthy is doing this year. I've only really started listening to her, watching her show on AFL.com.au this year.
Around so far.
Yeah, the co-host that she gets, not too shit hot on, but Kate McCarthy I like. And then only had $1 to spare. And then so I'm going Kath Lachlan. She is great. She does the WA games, I think. Yeah. So I went with Kath.
Very nice.
Very nice. Well, yeah, of course I've gone Hutto as well. He's the top man at the moment, I was thinking JB because I really love him on Triple M, but then his Channel 7 stuff is they really make him tone it down, so it's not as good from there. But then I've gone Jared Waitley as the next one. I love
Jared Waitley.
I love the combination on Friday nights, and I think Jared's a really good radio caller as well.
Mhm.
Very good theatre of the mind and all that sort of thing.
that.
So I've always enjoyed
I
listening
think
to
I
him.
prefer him as a radio caller
Yeah,
over because like I've been watching. Like I thought him and sorry to interrupt, but him and Hitout as the Thursday night pairing was going to go off, but I'm like, this is kind of a bit too much of the same thing for me.
Yeah.
So
that's fair enough.
anyway,
They're both too good.
Yeah.
spread them out.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I've also gone with Nathan Buckley as one of my special comments. Just he's a good former player that provides some good insight every week, so I don't mind him. Like he's one of the less jarring ones. Some of them can be a bit jarring.
Well, he's got a real good coach's mind as well.
Yeah,
so
analytical.
yeah.
Very analytical. Another one for the special comments, I've gone with Kate McCarthy as well. As you said, good with the AFL round so far, but I also love her on Triple M as well. She provides some great insight there. And then boundary rider as well, Abby Holmes. I think she's one of the best boundary riders in the game. I'm always interested to see what she, interviews on the ground after the game. The players always seem quite open with her. Sometimes, you don't want to be interviewed after, like at halftime when you're losing, but all the players seem to get along well and, respect what she does. So I think that's why she's one of the best in the game.
Yeah. How do you feel about being interviewed mid-game? Because I hate it. I do not want to hear from the coach or the captain. Not I don't want to hear from them, but I would rather them not be focused on doing media in the middle of a game. Like I feel like if I was a coach, I would hate that. And I think they do.
I agree. I think I've even seen some VFL games. They've got players getting a rub mid-game and there's a boundary rider just asking them a question. It's like, you know what they're getting the rub for is to play the game that they're about to jump on the field for.
Yeah.
So I think, mid-game, I don't see the need for it. Obviously, there's some sort of deal and understanding that there should be, but no, not for me. Post-game, pre-game, that's it. Let the players do what they need to do.
Yeah, I probably agree with that. I don't mind it, so to speak, at halftime because they're just walking off anyway. But in between those like shorter breaks, if they're like, sometimes they're interviewing the coaches, like the coach is just dying to get away to get up to the box. Yeah. So it's just like those ones are a bit unnecessary, I think. Yeah.
And then are you more of a Channel 7 person or a KO Sports Fox guy?
Great question. I don't know. I would have to say probably Fox.
Yeah.
Only because they've got all 9 games. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I lean towards Fox these days with the commentary teams on a commentary basis.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I mean, I've spoken a lot, although I do have issues with KO. I have to watch it. I can't do the free to air stuff. All right, that's it so far. So let's go to the round 11 preview. I think there's one game that everybody's going to be keeping an eye on. I'll let you cover this one.
Is it just the one game? So not the Melbourne-Sydney game?
No, I mean there is, but there's a main game that you mentioned it before, the Bailey Smith.
Not Saints and Gold Coast at Marvel Stadium, 4:40 on a Sunday. No, we all know what you're talking about. It's Thursday night, the Bailey Smith grudge match. There's also been a few jabs kind of pointed at one another in the last couple of weeks, which I think is great. It's a bit of fun, bit of theatre. When people say they don't want players doing so, I think they're just wrong. Allow them to do what they do. Give them the space to be who they are, and obviously Bailey Smith is happy to get in front of a mic, although people force it upon him because he wants to hear what he has to say. I'm glad that he can kind of say what he feels, and the same as Bont as well, who responded as well. But Thursday night, GMHBA Stadium, 7th v 5th, Cats v Dogs. Cats v Dogs, history will say they don't like each other to begin with. Not just these teams, just the animals themselves, They're always chasing one another around and whatnot. So the added fuel of the Bailey Smith trade and a bit of maybe ill feeling there for the last 12 months, 18 months.
They've had close encounters up at GMHB as well. There was a Gary Ryan kick after the siren a few years ago. So the Bulldogs will bring it, and they're one of the informed teams in the comp. But of course, it's the Cats' fortress, so that'll make it a really good match.
Do you think there's actual bad blood there? Because I think it's a little bit played up. I reckon Bailey's. I think he knows how to control the media, and he knows what he's doing. I think it's a little bit of. I think it's a little bit of theater. It's a little bit. What's the word in WW in the wrestling where it's kayfabe? I think it's a little bit of kayfabe. I don't think they actually the players themselves.
I agree. Players.
I reckon they're in the DMs privately, being like, let's make some headlines here. Or you see that one, haha, got yours.
Potentially, yeah. I reckon definitely within the players they've moved on. You don't really have a choice.
Yeah.
If they had ill feeling, but maybe some staff lingering didn't like how it was all panned out. Because, he was already signed and sealed and delivered at Geelong whilst the Dogs are preparing for a final series.
Yeah.
So maybe from that perspective, but between the players, most of them, I imagine, would still be good mates with him.
Yeah.
They still chat, talk. They might catch up every now and then, I imagine. But I think it's also good. I don't mind a bit of a media frenzy coming into games like this. It does build it up a little bit more than just an ordinary Thursday night.
Yeah, first centre bounce is going to be great if he's there in the centre bounce. Who do you think goes to him?
I want Libba to go to him straight away. I don't think for the rest of the game. I think Matt Kennedy and Libba might try and knock him about it. Stoppage, okay. But who knows? Maybe Bond. Send the skipper in.
They were the ones with the bit of verbal war. Bond was the one, surprisingly, that fired back. So I reckon that'll be a good matchup.
I don't know. Like, that's why I think it's a little bit of theatre, because it just felt so uncharacteristic for Bond to actually engage in that.
Yeah. He was launching his new cafe.
Yeah.
It's his job and then his old teammate.
That's why I think it's like, he said that, and then afterwards immediately would have texted Basilenka being like, wait till you hear what comes out of this presser. But,
I agree.
Yeah. Other game, obviously, I'm looking forward to that Sydney game.
Dream time at the G.
Yeah, Dream time's coming up.
Friday night.
Yeah, that one too. Can I just talk about Melbourne for a second? Because
I was trying to move on quickly.
We're both on 16 points. So there's a couple of teams right now on the ladder that are sitting in that 16-point range that I think could make a push to finals. Sydney's one of them. Melbourne are maybe one of them. But yeah, so that one has like big implications, I think. And Sydney are going to want to win that.
It's not necessarily do or die for both teams, but you'd have to assume that if one propels ahead of the other, that the loser will probably struggle, if not definitely not be, or definitely will never. It's
that cliche 8-point game where it's like you win and you're right back up with the pack, and you lose, it's a big hit to go on for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Petrarca 200 as well.
Right?
Petrarca 200 game on against Sydney, so it's a big one for us to.
Will they turn up? Fans.
Yeah. No, we'll get up for that
Sunday, MCG. It's
3:20, classic Sunday 3:20 game for us. Yeah, I will be there.
I think there will be more Sydney fans.
We're coming off the best win of the season so far.
That's enough.
There's going to be at least 15 of us there. All right. And dream time of the G.
Well, new fixture, normally Saturday nights, and now they've got their standalone spot, which, again, it's always a spectacle. I haven't been to one of these personally, but these are always pretty special.
Yep.
Their pre-game celebrations or, honorees is pretty cool. And who knows with Richmond? They've taken a few scalps.
Yeah. And Essendon do not look good.
And Essendon are just awful. So, again, expect a close one.
It'll be competitive, for sure. I think, there's Hawthorn Brisbane. Top 4 clash, so that'll be interesting. I think Hawthorn have the wood over them for quite a while now, so that'll be interesting. I think another sort of 8-point game to look at is Carlton and Giants as well.
Yeah. That game is the battle of who is not terrible.
Well, who's not a pretender, I think, at this point, because Giants have lost 4 out of the last 5, and Carlton started the season 0-5 or whatever, 0-4 or whatever it was. So yeah, it'll be interesting for that one as well. Yeah,
should be a good round. And then what else have we got? The rest of them are okay. Saints Suns. That should be. I just want to see. I need my prediction to come through
with St Kilda
of St Kilda getting the spoon, just to justify me saying that Richmond we're going to win it.
Would you argue that if West Coast win the spoon and West Coast beats St Kilda, that St Kilda's technically won the spoon then? Because
let's go with that.
You can't lose to the winners.
Like the AFL party circle, and one team beats the other team, and they're all there. The last weekend it completed it.
Yeah, because West Coast finally won a game.
Finally won a game.
Yeah, love it. All right, well, that wraps it up for the Hitout this week. Thank you, Aidan. Thank you, Callum. I didn't forget your name.
Sitting right there.
Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you like. We have plenty of content coming out this week. And see you next week.